What's going on, guys? It's Waylon. Now, this video is going to be pretty different compared to what I'm usually doing. Thanks to the EA summer sale, I bought a lot of games from the Battlefield franchise, and it just gave me the idea, why don't I talk about every Battlefield game from the beginning? Because I've been a fan since the first Bad Company, way back in 2007, 2008. So I decided to get every Battlefield game I could get my hands on and play it. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I could not get gameplay footage on Battlefield Hardline, which sucks because it just so happens to be my favorite game in the entire series. Mainly because it uses the same style server browsing as Battlefield 3. And besides that, there's barely anyone playing it, and most of the time you're either getting spawn camped or killed by hackers, or both. But I'm still going to talk about it nonetheless. Obviously, I couldn't get gameplay footage for the first Bad Company, and Battlefield Bad Company 2, but regardless, let's get on into it with the first Bad Company.
Welcome to the 222nd Army Battalion.
So here we are, the first Battlefield game. This game was released around 2007-2008. I still remember I had a PS3 around this time, and I downloaded the demo for this game. I was absolutely blown away by what you could do in this game. You could tear down walls, you could tear down whole buildings, you could blow up cars, you could destroy just about everything in the environment. Nothing like that, at least from when I was a kid, I never seen anything like that. Most of the time, it was like destroying fences, destroying windows, or blowing up barrels. And not only that, this game's demo actually gave you a really good grasp on what this game is really going to be about. It's an absolutely fantastic game. And if you have a PS3 and you do have the game, I urge you to play it. I seriously doubt the servers are still up to play multiplayer. I never got to experience that. But for the little time I got to play it as a kid, it gave me hours of fun. Anyway, let's move on to the next game, which is Battlefield Bad Company 2. Now let's talk about Bad Company 2. I just so happened to remember that I had made a really crappy commentary video, so we actually have some usable footage here. So, I never got to play Battlefield Bad Company 2 in its heyday, which is really unfortunate, because it apparently is one of, like, the best games in the entire series. Like, a lot of people say that it's their favorite game to play, and it was to the point that even DICE could not explain why people like this game so much. And honestly, I could see why people like it. Like, it just has a charm to it. But this game came out around 2009, and as I said before, I never got to play it that much, which really sucks because this game has a lot of charm about it. It still has a dedicated community to this day. And one thing that this game did do right was they had the Battlefield Bad Company 2 Vietnam expansion, which, oh my god, I can't even put into words how fucking good this is. This footage is from 2017, and I still get hyped seeing it now. The fact that I can use an M1 Garand was just absolutely badass. This game expanded on the destructible environments. You could basically level entire houses. You could blow shit up on the ground and absolutely blow holes into the floor. I tried playing this game recently, and for some reason, I just could not get into the game. It just wouldn't let me log in. I could not play it. I played a little bit of the campaign, but unfortunately, I just wasn't able to get in. You know, rest in peace, Battlefield Bad Company 2. I never got to enjoy it while it was still popping. So the next game coming up is the game that got me back into the Battlefield franchise that we're going to show really soon, and that is Battlefield 3. So Battlefield 3, this was the game that got me back into the Battlefield franchise. Originally came out in 2011, I didn't start playing it till about 2014, so by then Battlefield 4 had already been out for a year. The game still had a passionate community playing it, and what DICE did with this game was absolutely amazing. They had the updated DICE engine, the effects, the destructible environments, they were more detailed, they were bigger, explosions looked better, they went for a more realistic approach to the game, and a bit more serious. Not only that, this game had some pretty good DLC. The base maps, though, were pretty good nonetheless. As you can see here, Operation Firestorm, still one of my favorite maps to this very day. Some of these maps were so good, in fact, that they got basically remastered and put in Battlefield 4 as extra DLC. I'd say one of the only true downsides of playing this game is probably this game's really infamous blue tint that just was absolute hell on your eyes, especially playing it at a high brightness or like late at night. And the game's sun glare. When I tell you that this sun glare was like being flashbanged 24/7 is a complete understatement. Combined with the suppression effect that they added to this game, so basically if you started getting shot at and bullets are whizzing by your head, your peripheral vision would start to blur and you would tunnel. It was extremely annoying if I'm being honest, and it basically made you completely blind if you were in a serious gunfight, but overall the game was very good. But the community stayed strong for a few years. There's still even servers up to this day on Battlelog that you could still play on. But we didn't see another entry into the Battlefield series for about 2 years. And that's when DICE changed everything when they released Battlefield 4. Now, Battlefield 4 came out around 2013. And I'm going to be honest with you. The launch was a complete disaster. The game was pretty much unplayable, even in single player. It had a chance of completely just corrupting the entire game. I also never got to play the beta for it. This game was also one of the first games to be ported to next-gen consoles. The game was also infamous for the quote-unquote netcode, where if the game had bad netcode, what you'd think would be a headshot would not be. Battlefield 4 also introduced a little mechanic that, if you're a Battlefield player, you probably expect in every game now. It's called Levolution. You actually see it right here on your screen. The most famous one is obviously from Siege of Shanghai. Basically what it is, you do something to the map or to a building that is so drastic it completely changes the way it looks. And it also changed the way that you had to play the map. The most well-known version is Siege of Shanghai, when you bring down that skyscraper and essentially make it impossible to counter snipers. Battlefield 4 was also the game I put the most hours in. I played this game religiously when I had it on Xbox. I was also one of the top ranked players in North America at one point playing this game. If I'm being honest with you, I feel like Battlefield 4 is arguably the best game in the series. It's not my favorite, but it is arguably at least top 3 in terms of Battlefield games. And it's still got a strong community playing to this day. In fact, there is more and more servers popping up as of me making this commentary right now, because more and more people are coming to play it. So if you want a fun game to come play with your buddies, I urge you to pick up Battlefield 4, because even the base maps are worth it. You don't even need DLC. So it would be another 2 years before we saw another entry in the Battlefield series. But there was a major difference. DICE would not be developing this game, and more importantly, they wouldn't be going with the military theme that every other Battlefield game had been using up to this point. That's when we got Battlefield Hardline in 2015. Now, Battlefield Hardline is a very controversial game in the series. I wouldn't say controversial, it's a very polarizing game, actually. It's either Battlefield fans' favorite game, or it's a Battlefield fans' most hated game. This game was not developed by DICE. It was actually developed by Visceral Games, which, if you didn't know, are the same guys that made Dead Space. Regardless, it wasn't DICE making it. It was still made on the Frostbite engine, and more importantly, it was made by guys that clearly cared about what they were doing. What this game did different from normal Battlefield games, they went for the whole cops and robbers theme, which honestly is what killed the game, if I'm being honest. But I still remember playing this game in its beta back in 2015. This is beta footage you're seeing here that is by AF Guides HD. One of the things that I really liked about this game, it really expanded on the whole Levolution thing, but it also did dynamic map events, which had been done in Battlefield 4 on a few maps, but was never done on a grander scale like Battlefield Hardline, and wasn't done on nearly every map. There was a map on the Scattered Islands that had a hurricane come through, and then on the map Dust Bowl, which was also in the beta, you had a massive dust storm come through, which honestly just made it impossible to snipe on it. This game also had some minor details and unique changes with the gameplay that I thought was really interesting. One of the things was that they changed the name of the classes, so you didn't have support, they were enforcers. Scouts or snipers were called professionals now. Engineers were called mechanics, and then you just had your medic. Depending on whether you were part of the SWAT or you were part of the robbers, your gear was actually different. It looked different, it functioned differently, which actually switched up the gameplay a bit, and it was actually pretty dope. Another thing that the game did is the ability to incapacitate targets. So if you had a taser or a blunt melee weapon, if you could get up behind someone and melee them, you could interrogate them for the location of all nearby enemies. Or if you tased them, you could do the same thing. But again, this is one of the things that really killed the game. Most Battlefield fans really wanted a game where it was semi-realistic military shooter with large-scale warfare. Most people didn't want this whole cops and robbers aesthetic. I get it. You know, this game is almost like playing cops and robbers with your buddies when you were kids, and this is what you visualize you were actually doing. But nevertheless, this was a very fun game to play. It's honestly my favorite game in the entire series. I love this game. And apart from the theme being one of the reasons it killed the game, it was also the fact that DICE had developed another Battlefield game just over a year later. And that was when we got Battlefield 1. The game came out around 2016. If I'm being honest, Battlefield 1 is one of those games that I really want to like, because the setting is absolutely awesome. I don't know what it is. It's just game set during World War I that I think are just dope as fuck. I wouldn't say they killed it, but they did a really good job making this game. The setting was great, the maps were very unique, and the single player mode was actually pretty interesting. So they didn't have a campaign, they had multiple campaigns known as war stories. So you would be playing as one of the Harlem Hellfighters, you would be a tanker for the British Army, and then eventually you would play a con man that became a pilot. Or my favorite one, you got to play as the Italian Arditi. And even today, this game still has a pretty big community. People still play the game. The maps were a bit more open. The Levolution wasn't on the grand scale that you see in like Hardline or Battlefield 4. There were some buildings you could completely level. What they did to change the game is they did the dynamic map events, and they also added Behemoths. Behemoths were super powerful and super tough vehicles that were map specific, so it would be either an airship, a dreadnought, which is a giant warship, a big armored train, or a super tank. Again, these were all map specific, and you would only get it if you were losing the game very badly. It usually would help you win, but if it was destroyed, especially the airship, it would stay wherever it crashed for the rest of the map. It could actually alter the gameplay a fair bit. Some of the Levolution you can do in this game was really cool too. You could level bridges, you could do all sorts of things in this game. It was very unique. But now I have to talk about the bad things in this game. The one thing I do not like about this game is its shooting. I'm gonna be honest with you, it is arguably one of the worst shooting systems I have ever seen in any video game. I hate trashing this game because I love playing it, but oh my goodness, when I ADS at someone and the bullets just go around them like it's a cone, it absolutely infuriates me. But overall, it's a pretty good game. I recommend picking it up right now and playing it. But if I'm being honest, the game came and went. That's really all it did. And it would be another 2 years before we saw another Battlefield game. And this game was arguably one of the most talked about games of 2018 at one point. And that game is Battlefield 5. Now, when this game was revealed back in 2018, it generated a lot of controversy because the revealed trailer presented a British female soldier, which a lot of Battlefield players and a lot of people in the Battlefield community did not like because it was historically inaccurate. A lot of stuff they showed at the reveal was not accurate whatsoever, and it really made a lot of people upset. It eventually even sparked a trending hashtag on Twitter called #NotMyBattlefield. Now, I really don't care too much about historical inaccuracy when it comes to multiplayer games, so long as the game is fun. Another thing is that some people did not like this game because there was not a lot of content, and even with the DLCs out today, there's still not many guns, there's a large lack of gadgets and weapon customization, and the creative and sandbox gameplay just wasn't the same as past Battlefields. The only major gripe that I really had with this game was the war stories. Now, they covered parts of World War II that not a lot of people talk about, which I thought was really interesting. A great example being The Last Tiger, where you play as a tank commander in the German army, which right then and there was a really cool idea. But the problem is that there's one minor detail that is just unbelievable that they screwed it up. You have to fight American troops in this war story, but the problem is that they're not attacking you with bazookas. They're attacking you with Panzerfausts, which is a strictly German weapon. It's one thing to have somewhat historical inaccuracies playing multiplayer, but you can't mess up something like this in the campaign. That's just a cardinal sin. But besides that, the game is pretty fun. They changed the way squads work, so you don't need a medic to actually pick people up. If someone's in your squad and you're down, though it takes longer, you still have the opportunity to pick them up. And you're not relying on medics to regain your health. You carry a med kit on you at all times, and you could pop that to regain some health. Though I don't like playing on the Eastern Front too much, I feel like it's overdone. The fact that you can fight on maps set in the Pacific as a Japanese soldier or as an American soldier is really fucking cool. We need more World War II shooters set in the Pacific. It's just that good. So I'd say it's time to wrap it up right here. Overall, the Battlefield franchise has some pretty solid games. They have some very good games. They only had 1 or 2 games that really aren't the best, but they're still playable nonetheless. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. This is the first time I ever did a video like this, and I don't know what to think about it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Let me know what you think of the video. If I get enough feedback on this and I feel like I could try it again, I might. I've been thinking about making a video like this for a while, and I decided to just say, well, screw it, why don't we just do it? So anyway, guys, that is me talking about the Battlefield games throughout the years. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I will see you guys in the next video.